Crystal Gem Feast, a Steven Universe Vor story by Thick Eater. It was a simple day at the Crystal Gem Temple base. Garnet, Amethyst, and Steven were outside playing a small game of Steven Tag. Pearl was on the couch reading one of her favorite romantic novels, and the strong, pink-haired leader Rose Quartz was fixing herself something to eat.
"You know, we don't really need food, Rose,"
chuckled Pearl, spotting the beautiful gem queen. Oh, I know. I just like the feeling and taste of it. I spent so much time trying new foods with Greg that eating is just as frequent to me as humans have food, said Rose, piling on random foods onto a rather large plate. Her appetite was as random as Amethyst's. Go figure, thought Pearl. Rose was always open to new things. That's one of the many reasons she loved Rose Quartz. After her meal, Rose's belly still grumbled. Man, I thought that'll satisfy me, Rose groaned as she rubbed her already empty tummy. Pearl blushed a little at the sight. She greatly loved the big, obese woman, and seeing her former love stroking the large, fat belly of hers was just a turn-on. Rose caught on to Pearl staring and smiled at the thin gem. She remembered that Pearl was a bit of a fetishist, often partaking in several human-developed fetishes over the year, including piss play and eating shit, and of course BDSM. She knew, though, that she was definitely a fan of thicker girls, and meeting her new girlfriend, Sheena, confirmed this. Just then, Rose had a good idea, one to sedate her hunger and please her tiny Pearl. Oh, Pearl, Rose said rather cutely. Pearl shifted a little in her seat. Had she caught onto her stares? Yes, Pearl said. Want to help me with this hunger? I know you do, Rose seductively said as she approached the gem, her large pink locks bouncing with each big fat step of her legs.
"You mean you want to, you know?"
Pearl went as she fiddled with her fingers, trying to hide her blush from her large friend. Come on, Pearl. You know as well as I do that you love being eaten up. Who was it that fed herself to Steven, or Bismuth, or even Garnet and Amethyst? Pearl blushed greatly now, her cheeks now a great shade of turquoise. She loved the feeling of consumption, and she hadn't been eaten by Rose in forever. Why not take a trip down memory lane? With a nervous smile, Pearl acclaimed.
"Okay, Rose, please, just make me your meal."
Rose clapped her hands together in joy. Pearl was so cute enough to eat. Rose sat down awkwardly close to Pearl on the couch, her large posterior taking up more than a quarter of the said couch, which bounced the thin gem up into her lap. Facing her, Rose took Pearl's tubular arm into her extremely large hands. Placing it into her mouth, Rose began to suck on Pearl's flimsy arms, with Pearl looking at her in silence, trying to hide the pleasure coursing through her. Just then, Rose gave Pearl a pearly white smile, with her teeth still clamped gently on the arm of the gem. Painfully slowly, Rose started to bite down onto Pearl's arm, hard. For Pearl, it wasn't all that painful, but she still winced at the pain, as her arm was literally chewed off by a hungry Rose. She didn't worry, though. Her arm will grow back, eventually. Probably not soon, though, as the rest of her will soon be melting in the cutely large bowels of Rose. Pearl was blushing at the sight of Rose chewing up her severed arm, swallowing up the blue mess of it.
"Wow, you're hungry, aren't you, Rose?"
You know it. Rose cheered as she smiled at the white gem like a predator. The large gem pounced on Pearl, taking her head into her very spacious mouth, swallowing it down, quickly making her way to her torso. With swallow after swallow, Pearl was trying her best to struggle, while Rose was eating her up. She knew Rose loved it when her prey was fighting back. Soon, Rose at her waist, with Pearl's legs flailing out at quite a fast pace. Without wasting any time, Rose slurped up the rest of Pearl's noodle-like body, and with a large-sounding gulp, sent the tall gem into her awaiting gut. Pearl squirmed around in her soft, gooey home and tried to get comfortable while also massaging the walls of Rose's belly. Eventually, she relaxed and just enjoyed the moist and humid environment she was in. Rose's obese, fat belly was much more spacious than any person's she'd been inside of, and she loved the largeness of Rose's fat, spacious belly. As Rose looked down into her slightly distended body, she gave off a small, quick burp, giggling right after. Internally, though, she was a bit disappointed. Pearl had very little meat on her and still didn't fill up her tummy. Rose then realized she wasn't her only meal. There were 3 other scrumptious gems outside just waiting for her to chow down on. "Hey, Pearl," Rose spoke, poking at her large stomach.
Yes, Rose?
Said Pearl, as she was barely staying awake from the warmth embracing her form. "Wanna have some company in there? You were tasty, but not really filling me." Pearl giggled at that. It was true. She wasn't really a meal for her massive gem goddess, and the thought of the rest of the crystal gems joining her in this pure, pleasuring, digestive fusion just made her joyful.
Sure. I'm sure they enjoy it. Maybe not Garnet, though,
Pearl said as she poked from the inside of her gut. "Oh, don't worry. I'm sure she'd obliged." Rose then struggled to get up from the couch due to the new, slightly bigger, fat belly. Walking out of the beach house, the tall gem spotted the rest of the team. Garnet was currently juggling her little Stephen and Amethyst, who had shapeshifted into Stephen's form. I guess they got tired of Stephen tag, though. Coming down to where they were, Garnet stopped juggling the young gems and noticed Rose's swaying stomach. She had smirked as she immediately realized who currently was inhabiting the soft mound. "Hey, everyone," Rose bounced as she waved to her gem family. "Hi, Mom," said Stephen as he ran up to her, hugging her to the best of his ability. Being the small little gem boy he was, Stephen only reached to the top of Rose's knee as he hugged her, but her stomach had squished against the top of his head, making her big stomach ripple. Small gurgles could be heard from inside her gut. Stephen noticed Rose's distended stomach and started touching and bouncing it, wondering why she was larger than usual. "Is there something different about you, Mom?" Rose chuckled at her curious little boy. "Maybe," said Rose, trying to act all innocent. Garnet then approached her superior, saying, "So, you and Bird," pointing to her gurgling gut. Rose gave yet another pearly white smile to the fusion. Amethyst got what they were referring to and just started giggling uncontrollably, where Stephen just looked at the 3 of them in confusion. "Shh, you know how she gets. Wanna join her?" Garnet gave one of her signature unemotional looks at Rose, probably giving her the answer. Amethyst, on the other hand, Me next, me!" and hopped into the large gem's arm. "Of course you wanted to join her. I don't think you've been there before," Rose said. Stephen was still very confused at this point and asked, "Go where? What are you guys talking about?" The 2 quartz laughed at the little guys until Amethyst spoke up, saying, "Well, you know that little thing Pearl likes to do with people to make him happy? cook dinner for them." "Cook dinner for them?" said Stephen, still confused. Rose giggled at this. "Close, but no, the other thing." Stephen then realized what she meant after taking another look at his mother's tummy. "Oh," said Stephen as he blushed, knowing he had eaten Pearl too before. "Now come on, Rose. Get ready for a good round purple snack," cheered Amethyst as she immediately stuffed herself into Rose's hot mouth. Stephen and Garnet blushed more at the sight. Rose didn't even use her hands to help eat Amethyst. She crawled quickly into her throat and soon Rose shut her mouth completely around the short purple gem and swallowed hard at her plump frame, sending her to join Pearl. Rose's tummy even grew more. Amethyst wasn't as tall as Pearl, but she was much thicker, filling up Rose much better. Rose moaned at Amethyst's flavor and gave a loud comedic burp for Garvin and Stephen to hear. After enjoying her aftertaste, Rose turned to the two and said, "So who's next?" Stephen was a bit intimidated by the size of Rose's body now. He'd been eaten before, but only by Pearl and sometimes Amethyst. But he was very curious of what it's like in that massive pouch of a stomach. Garnet, on the other hand, grunted at the sight, knowing she'd be next on the menu. She then walked over to the tall gem rebel and said, "All right, let's get this over with." "Oh, Garnet, you won't regret this, I promise," said Rose as she quickly took Garnet's muscular shoulders into her hands. She then opened her mouth wide, wider than she had ever before. Seeing this for the first time, Stephen guessed his mother's mouth must have been the width of a window. Rose then completely clamped down onto Garnet's African-American body, taking in afro and everything. Giving some strong swallow, Rose then made her way to Garnet's torso. Garnet had a firm, strong chest, which had the most flavor according to Rose. Rose thought that Garnet tasted a lot like black people. With more powerful swallows, Garnet's entire chest had plunged deep into Rose's throat, leaving only Rose's favorite part, Garnet's African-American thighs and African-American butt. Rose began massaging Garnet's powerful lower half, sending shivers down the fusion's spine. After a good African-American butt massage, Garnet was much more relaxed and let herself be sent into Rose's body. Rose savored Garnet's aftertaste and also released a sweet-smelling belch. Stephen looked at his mother in awe. She had eaten all 3 of the crystal gems. Her massive belly swayed and pulsated from the 3 struggling gems within it. Rose noticed the little boy stare. "Come here, Stephen. Come help your mother up to the house," said Rose gently as she motioned her fat fingers toward her. Okay," said Stephen nervously as he went over to the massive quartz and took her hand. The two went up the house. Ever so often, Stephen would look to Rose's massive stomach, seeing it jiggle and gurgle up. Coming up to the house, Rose gave Stephen a predatory look. "Oh, Stephen," said Rose, gesturing Stephen to come closer to her. Stephen nervously walked over to his mom, crawling up upon her gurgling tummy. "Would you like to join them?" Stephen was anxious, but he finally answered, Okay, Mom, you can eat me." Rose clapped her hands in joy at her son's trust in him. "Oh, Stephen, don't worry. You'll be safe in Mommy's big, fat tummy. Then you'll be trapped in her meaty thighs or breast before you get shitted out." Stephen blushed greatly at the idea. Rose slowly opened her fat-ass mouth as wide as she did with Garnet and let out her tongue, which was almost as big as Stephen's entire torso. With Stephen with his hands and knees on Rose's chest, he slowly crawled into her mouth, resting his upper body onto the hot, wet, pink structure. Rose slowly closed her mouth, only leaving Stephen's leg outside, eventually slurping him up. Rose had a mouthful of Stephen now, soon gently chewing on the little boy, massaging his tiny body with her teeth and tongue. "Mom, do I taste good?" Stephen said, feeling naughty. Rose could only moan at her son's taste. He had a sweet taste, fitting for such a sweet, fat young man. It was now time for the moment of truth. With a single large swallow, Stephen was sent into her tight, meaty throat, and soon to the fleshy sack of her stomach, where all of the crystal gems were. But they were naked. Their generated clothes must have melted off with the stomach acid. Stephen shielded her eyes in embarrassment. Rose fell asleep on the couch, resting off her 4-course meal of gems. During the course of a couple of hours, the 4 of them melted down gently and comfortably within Rose's shrinking gut. Their physical bodies became mush and the gem leaved her squishy belly. Their gems was soon squeezed into Rose's bowels, while what's left of their remains added onto Rose's physical form, growing her already massive tits and ass. After digesting the crystal gems, Rose went to the toilet and on the seat and slowly shitted out all the crystal gems. She smiled as she saw all of her friends covered in shit, and Rose knew that she had the best meal of her life.